Hey, Healthy Edge community, just changing it up here a little bit, doing a straight talk in Berlin's little princess bedroom. The lighting's just really good in here, and I don't know, I just felt like the straight talk should happen here. So this is pre-recorded because I have some friends in town, which is awesome and exciting. And I wanted to elaborate on what I sent in the newsletter, those of you that are following these straight talks as they happen, about foreboding joy. So this is a topic that has come up quite often in a lot of my one-on-one sessions. And I never really understood the concept, and then I read about it somewhere that it is actually a tactic of the enemy to steal our joy in the present by reminding us what happened in the past when we were too joyful, when we were too hopeful, when we were too in love, when we were too sure of ourselves, when we were too confident, when we thought that nothing could go wrong, or taking us into the future and assuming that because of what has happened in the past, that that's going to happen in the future. So what happens is it becomes very, very difficult to have joy in the moment. And it's hard to have peace in the moment because there's something inside of you that doesn't want to get too comfortable in that spot. There's something inside of you that, or us, I will say us, that doesn't want to let their guard down, that doesn't want to relax too much, doesn't want to assume too much, doesn't want to be too overly joyful or confident in the moment because there's this fear that it's going to be snatched away. And so this foreboding joy is something that can just kind of permeate. It just kind of sits there throughout your life. It's always there, and it keeps you from fully being alive in the moment, fully just embracing what life has because you have a protective mechanism around you. So again, this is a tactic of the enemy. He wants, again, to remind us of our failures in the past, and he wants us to look at the people around us and see how their life, was going great, and then whoops, the other shoe dropped. This is a place that I think we meet God. I really do. There's not anything that I can tell you that's going to magically say, oh, Amber, my foreboding joy is absolutely gone. I think this is what we wrestle with God. I really do. I think this is where we get to wrestle with God about the suffering in the world. I think this is where we wrestle with God about our own suffering and our own struggles. And we have to get to a place, a knowing inside of us as we take these things to the Lord. But what I think happens is that we don't take it to God, and we become cynical, and we become resentful, and we become negative, and we actually start to rub off on other people. So we start to have a little bit of maybe introducing to them foreboding joy. Someone says some great news and it's like you're already thinking about what could go wrong. Somebody just met someone and you're already thinking, geez, I don't know about that. How long have you known him? What's his story? And so you actually start to bring that into the relationships around you. So this is a really powerful thing. And I think all too often we just think that it's just part of life. Life is a struggle. It's tough. It just is what it is. Like nothing lasts forever. And those things may be true, but we have a hope and we have a joy in the Lord that is present. It's a present. The present moment is a present. It's a gift. And all we have is this moment. So we can't wait to feel our joy or wait to feel our peace. And if we're constantly in this attitude and allowing the enemy to mess with our present moment, then we're going to live our whole entire life like that. So I've had to really, really wrestle with the Lord. I've had to take to him the struggles that I've walked through and the suffering that I see in the world and what's going on. And he has met me in that place. And I see, in my opinion, this is kind of what's been shown to me, is that the things that God allowed to happen, first of all, he protected me in those things. I really, really see his hand as I look back, orchestrating a protection that he knew what was going to come, and he supplied me with what I needed and who I needed and the circumstances and the situation that I needed to be able to not just survive it, but to literally get what it is that was the gift in the struggle. And only now can I say this after walking through it, because I would have probably never said that going through it. I mean, it made sense to say that that's what was going to happen, but I didn't feel like that in the moment. But now, as I come out of it, what I have found is like relationships are so much sweeter and so much more fragile to me. And I guard my heart, not in a way that's cynical, but I guard my way in a way that it's special. My heart just isn't for everyone. It isn't for, although I give you guys my heart, right? I basically give you my life, but it's just something more special. I've actually fallen in love with myself during this journey because I never really knew myself without looking through the eyes of other people or other people's validation or other people's approval or what they said about me or the things that I achieved. And so hitting that rock bottom, which is what I would definitely call it, was really a chance for me to just see me when everything is stripped away. And again, didn't like it when I was going through it, really ticked off while I was going through it, wanted to change it, wanted to fix it, wanted to do all of that. But the Lord really met me and showed me who I was when everything else is stripped away. And from that place, I'm able to love myself in a way that I would have never been able to do before. It would have always been contingent upon what I look like or my friend circle or how successful I was or my marriage or, what it all looked like to everybody else around me. So that has been such a gift in the struggle, in the thing that I would have never picked. If you would have put a list in front of me of the things that you can walk through in this life, like, I don't think I would have picked that. So I see that in the struggle. And then I see other people that I really love that are wise and graceful. A lot of women that have just blown my mind about just the type of people that they are and character. And when I sit down and hear their stories, it is always from a crazy place of struggle and a crazy place of, wow, like you walked through that. But now I see that the beauty and the grace and the wisdom comes from that journey, the way that they can love, the way that they can be in awe and appreciate and have gratitude and be able to sit with someone who's in pain and not try to fix them because they know what the pain can bring, that there's a gift in the pain. So these are just things that I just want you to start thinking about, because I think sometimes we just accept like, oh, that's just who I am. That's just how I've always done things. That's just how I see the world. I know people call me cynical. But then there might be some of you that you've known it about yourself and it's kind of bothered you, but you've never really put a word or a phrase to it, like foreboding joy. And maybe you never realized that it isn't even from God and it isn't necessarily how you were created, but it's a tactic, it's a deception, it's a lie, it's a whisper, it's something that we partner with. And so hopefully that gives you some power and that gives you some hope that doesn't have to be what your future is. I know that I'm going to walk through a lot of things with Berlin, but I do know this, that I waited 38 years for her. And there were so many years that I prayed for a baby. I prayed that Brian would change his mind, that he'd want to have a family. I prayed. And I never thought that it was going to happen. And that was such a struggle. That was such a struggle to go through my 20s and then to get married, but then to go to my 30s and not have a baby. And then Berlin comes at the craziest time when my whole world is falling apart. She's about ready to enter the world. I would not have chosen that timing at all. What a struggle. But it was the perfect timing, because without Berlin, I think I would have lost myself. And I'm just being honest, because God knows me better than I know myself. Like, she anchors me to life. She helps me not check out. She really, really kept me present. She kept me from fleeing. She kept me from escaping in ways that I used to escape. She kept me from going to those places of darkness that I knew so well that I knew I could hide. Like, her presence in my life at that moment she anchored me to life. And I know the same is true for Brian. I know that he would have the same testimony that she, just her existence, not anything that she does or anything that she's going to do, but just literally her existence in our life has been something that through the struggle, and through the pain, the greatest love I've ever felt, aside from the love that I feel for the Lord, the greatest lesson in patience and perseverance, and every other thing that I get taught every day. Like, it's not about me, but I do need to make time for me. But like, how does that whole thing work, right? I mean, the thing that we learn from kids, right? The struggle of raising a child, but I wouldn't give any of that struggle up. We say that we want it easy, but really it's in the struggles that they really become who they are, and we become who we're supposed to be from this journey of parenthood. So these are just things for you to think about. And ladies, it's time for us to wrestle. It's time for us to wrestle. These straight talks are not your answer. They're really your gateway. They're opening a door to something that maybe you've struggled with and you wanted to ask the Lord, or you've been angry with the Lord, or you don't understand even what's going on with this whole, COVID thing and everything going on. Like, it's okay to ask questions. As a matter of fact, he tells us to ask him, not just to sit there and pout, not to get all high and mighty, not to get judgmental, not to think that we know more than God, but to ask him questions. And what I have found is the questions that he hasn't answered for me, he still has given me a sense of peace about, that I can still believe in him and have faith and walk this life out and pursue my calling and be okay with some of those unanswered questions because of all the questions that he has answered for me. There's always going to be an element of mystery, ladies. Always. There's always going to be an element of mystery. There's always going to be a gap that's going to require us to have faith, that's going to require us to keep going, even though we don't know what the outcome is. We know who is in charge. And that's what the Lord has shown me. And so my foreboding joy, I will not partner with, because I know who he is. And I've seen how he's worked through my life. Maybe not in the way that I've asked, of course not, or the way that I've planned, of course not. But I've seen that his plan has always unfolded in a way that my plans never did and never could. And I've seen it in other people as they share their testimonies. And I know that there are things in your life that you can say, oh yeah, like that was totally the Lord. Well, what if every area was that? So there's no more need for foreboding joy. The Lord, I really believe that we live our lives in seasons. I've had winters, I've had summers, I've had springs, and I've had falls. And sometimes it feels like the winters drag on forever. But when the summer comes, it's not time to think about when the next winter's coming. It's time for summer. And it's time to rejoice and be happy and be in complete gratitude and to celebrate the bounty that you've been given and the abundance. It's not time for us to think about when the winter's coming. But when the winter comes, guess what? The summer, helps us to get through the winter. But the winter's actually when we build the greatest faith. We don't build our faith in the summer when everything's going great. If everything went great for every single person in this world and there was no suffering, which by the way, it's a fallen world, which God has shown me has been a truth for me. It's a fallen world. This is not heaven. We're not in eternity yet. We're in human form. We have a spiritual nature that will go up and be in heaven. And that will be where there will be no grieving, all the promises that were given in the Bible. But that's not here. This is the fallen world. This is the world that Jesus had to die to redeem. So there is suffering. That is part of this walk. So that's like a truth that God's given me. And maybe that's something that but you have to ask God to let it sink down into your spirit, which is called revelation. And you can ask him for that as well. But I don't even know where I was going with this. I was talking about something before that. Not scripted. Not scripted. Just knew that I needed to talk about this. We were talking about something about foreboding joy. Oh, we were talking about seasons. Seasons. It's in the winter that we search for God. It's not in the summers. We might praise him and thank him, but we don't search for him. We don't grow deeper. We don't get challenged with who God is And how big do we really believe he is? And how much do we really trust him? We don't struggle with those until we go through winters. So through a winter, I don't really enjoy it, but I know that coming out of it, the faith, the hope, the character, the endurance, the perseverance, the ability to give that wisdom to somebody else, the testimony, all of that comes out of it. So I just want to encourage you. We're all in the struggle. I'm reading a book that says we do hard things, and I love that. I used to have this in my 20s, this thing of like, life can be easy. It can be wonderful. Like you just have to do X, Y, and Z. And if you do this, and if you do that, and if you say the right prayers and you do, then life's going to turn out great. And I am just like, you know what? When I read that in the book, I do hard things. Like we do hard things in this life, and it makes life that much sweeter. It makes love that much more awesome. It makes the pain, yes, very painful. But the opposite of that is the joy and the love, and man, I don't know. It makes life sweeter. So I just kind of wanted to share this little message. I hope it touched you in some way, but more importantly, I hope that it opened up a door for you to ask God maybe some of the things that have just been bugging you, some of the things that you just need a little peace about. And even if he doesn't answer your question completely, I promise you that he will give you enough. He will give you enough so that you know that you can be still and know that he is God. And it's just part of the journey. I believe the journey here is trusting God more and more. And we will not fully do that until we see him face to face. But this journey is about trusting the Lord. And he shows up every single time, and he never leaves us, and he never forsakes us. So I'm praying for all of you sisters. We're all walking through a hard time right now. And I just wanted to call the enemy out because I love calling the enemy out. And I love telling him, like, you can't use that on me anymore. Sorry, no weapon formed against me will prosper. So this one's not going to prosper. So hopefully that kind of builds your, your tenacity a little bit when you go to give yourself a pep talk. Yeah. And sometimes we need to repent. We need to say, Lord, that foreboding joy, I absolutely have partnered with it. I have totally partnered with that and not allowed myself the joy that you promised me and the peace that you say is mine, because I'm believing some lies and some Yahoo, the enemy that's putting things in my head that I know that you're a good God. And I know that you're always looking out for me and you're turning all things into good, right? Okay, now I'm really done. Love you guys. Have a great week.